Hello everyone, I'm John Evans, and welcome to a special episode of One-on-One. Over the past 18 months or so, I've done 5 special reports for WECT newscasts on some of the oldest unsolved murder cases in the Wilmington area. I've talked to family members of the victims. I've talked to investigators, digging into what happened in the search for justice. In this special podcast, you're going to hear about those cases, about the hurt that the families still have, not knowing who took their loved ones, and about the drive that detectives have to solve these crimes of the Cape Fear. Case number 1, the Martha Maxwell murder. Elizabethtown, located in rural Bladen County, had a population of fewer than 4,000 people in 1994. On the morning of January 20th, Hilda Faye Cromartie got ready to leave her home on Blue Street, the one she shared with her mother, Martha.
And I told her, I said, Mom, I'm finna go to work. She said, okay. I said, now you get up and lock the screen door. And I sit in my car. I sit in my car until I seen her lock the screen door.
Even after 30 years, the pain for Hilda Faye Cromartie and her siblings is still raw. Someone got into the house that day after Hilda left and stabbed Martha several times in the chest and neck. The coroner's report said she also had defensive wounds on her hands and arms from battling her attacker. Investigators found no sign of forced entry into the house, which leads Hilda Faye to believe that Martha knew her killer.
Whoever it was, she knew him. Because she's not going to open that door unless she know you, and I know that.
Hilda Faye's sister Mona feels the same way, believing that her mom was comfortable letting that person into her home.
She unlatched that screen door. She got ready to turn, and that's when he attacked her. That's why the vases and the flowers were knocked down. And he attacked her, and that's when the struggle right here, because she was fighting him off.
Martha's husband, Johnny Maxwell, found her body shortly after noon, about 3.5 hours after Hilda Faye had said goodbye. What frustrated investigators and the family for years after the murder, no one has come forward with enough information to help make an arrest. None of Martha's neighbors saw anything strange, according to Mona.
They didn't see nothing out of the ordinary as far as somebody coming in here to rob her or to murder. It was just a normal thing for them to see that person come to this house.
Martha and her husband did have some marital issues and had separated, according to the children. Hilda Faye, Mona, and their sister Cynthia do not believe the killer came to rob Martha. They say her credit cards and jewelry were left behind.
My mother was a sweet person. She was a loving mother, grandmother, loved her grandchildren, did what she could and when she could. So it was something that really shocked the entire family.
Elizabethtown's police chief at the time, Mike Royston, said later that the department paid $9,000 in overtime for officers to investigate Martha's murder and another one that happened about a month before. Royston is also quoted in a newspaper report as saying, "It's hard for me to believe that no one out there knows who killed Martha Maxwell. It's hard to conceive that no one heard or saw anything." 2 former members of the Elizabethtown Police Department who worked on Martha Maxwell's case told me they interviewed several people during the investigation, but they never had enough evidence to charge anyone. As recently as 2021, investigators resubmitted evidence in Martha Maxwell's case to the State Bureau of Investigation, hoping new technology could produce a new lead. Here's Lieutenant Dwayne Cheshire.
There's been a lot of advances in technology that's been made as far as forensics, DNA, different stuff like that's available now that wouldn't have been available then.
If the tests do not turn up new leads, investigators like Lieutenant Cheshire may have to rely on someone in the community for help.
If anybody has any information out there, anything that, it doesn't matter how minor they may think it is, I mean, we're receptive, we're open to hear that. And if it it gives us something to develop a lead or a new avenue to go in, that's what we're more than willing to do.
To bring closure to Martha Maxwell's children, who have lived with the pain for more than 30 years.
The family, the 5 children, what we have suffered and went through. We need closure.
If anybody out there that knows anything in regards to my mom that's been gone, will be 30 years, please step up and reach out to us and let us know. Because like he said, somebody knows something.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody knows something
about my mom's death.
Not long after Martha Maxwell's murder, then Governor Jim Hunt's office offered a $6,000 reward for any information that helped to catch and convict her killer. At last check, that reward is still in place 31 years later. Case number 2, the Christmas Eve murder of Tara Tracy. It's early in the morning on Christmas Eve, 1999. Tara Tracy, a married mother of 4, is working the overnight shift alone in the Pantry convenience store north of Wilmington, trying to help her family afford presents for Christmas. Tara didn't live far from the store, just a short walk across Castle Hayne Road. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, a customer walked in and found Tara's body behind the counter. Someone had beaten her and stabbed her several times. Tara's mother, Janice Hamilton, talked with WECT News hours after she learned what happened.
I'm just in a state of shock. I really don't know what to say.
It's just a tragic thing. It's holidays. It's my grandson's birthday. And isn't this a terrible way to spend his birthday and spend Christmas?
Time has not softened the hurt for Tara Tracy's family. Her aunt, Ethel Greiman, mourned her loss in an interview 15 years later.
They take a mother from her children, and that was wrong, and we can't get that back.
Tara Tracy's case takes up several binders in the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit. Many investigators have worked the case since that Christmas Eve in 1999. Sergeant Nick Lee is one of the investigators taking a fresh look at the evidence.
When we look into these cases, we know that this is going to be a marathon. It's not going to be a sprint. We're going to have to look at every piece of paper that's in this case file.
Another member of the Cold Case Unit is Detective Steve Blissett. He has a close tie to this case because as Patrol Deputy Blissett in 1999, the pantry was one of the places he would regularly visit while working the overnight shift. Tara Tracy is one of the clerks he'd check on.
At 2 o'clock in the morning, law enforcement officers, there ain't a whole lot to talk to. So you go to your stores and you get tired, you want a cup of coffee, you go in there and you get to know these people. And I remember her, and I remember having conversations with her. I don't think that she was there that long.
When Deputy Blissett came on duty the morning of December 24th, the pantry had become a crime scene. The case file shows that a customer went into the store around 3 in the morning and Tara was alive. Another customer went in about an hour later and found her body. In 1999, traffic and security cameras were not as prevalent as they are today. Whoever committed the crime had quick access to 3 major getaway routes. Interstate 40, just 1 minute away. The 4-lane Highway 421, 12 minutes away. The 4-lane Highway 17, 15 minutes away. Sergeant Lee says, so far, no one has reported seeing anything.
And the time of day that it happened, 4 o'clock in the morning, there's not a lot of traffic on the roadways. There's not a lot of pedestrian traffic out. So there's not many witnesses that would have seen what would have occurred.
Tara's autopsy report shows she had several defensive wounds and a broken fingernail. Detective Blissett says whoever attacked her had a battle on their hands.
Yes, she fought. I mean, we can honestly say that. There is no doubt. She put up a fight. And that's why it makes it hard that somebody needs to me, there's got to be somebody that saw or, saw something from who did this.
There is a lot of evidence in the Tara Tracy case, but there is one key piece that's missing. It's what Sergeant Lee and Detective Blissett are searching for. to end the family's pain.
But Miss Tracy still has a family that deserves answers of what happened. We know that somebody out there has maybe a small nugget of information that we may not know that would help us.
I don't know if it's just a matter of somebody scared and all, and you know, but we're gonna keep going. Something's gonna come out of this.
In an interview WECT did with Tara's mother Janice in 2014, she told us another piece of information from this case, that whoever killed her daughter got away with $50 from the convenience store cash register. Case number 3, the murder of Michael McIntyre. The knock on the door came on June 28th, after Cynthia McIntyre had finished her workday at New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Sheriff's detectives arrived at her home in the Scotts Hill area of New Hanover County and asked to see a picture of her 23-year-old son, Michael. Then they told her someone had found a body just off Highway 421 in an area near several industrial companies. They wanted to know if she could identify a picture. That's how Cynthia found out that someone had murdered her son. Now, 24 years later, she waits for another knock on the door and for investigators to deliver the news that they've caught his killer.
First, I felt like I could kill somebody. That's how angry I was. I was hurt, but I was angry. When they actually told me where they found the body, I just could not believe it. How a person can take someone's life and then just storm beside the road and leave them.
Another life changed on that same day.
For days and days and days, I just couldn't get it out of my mind that I saw what I saw. I wish I hadn't been the one to find it, let's put it that way.
Sue had left her job for a lunch break, and while going back to work, she turned off Highway 421 onto an entrance road leading to Fortron Industries and Cosa Chemicals. That's when something on the side of the road caught her eye.
I came back, turned in here down the road, and I saw something white. So I pulled my truck over and looked, and there was a big, big red spot. He was wearing a white t-shirt, and I saw a big red spot, and I can tell he had passed away.
Investigators identified the victim as Michael McIntyre. Sheriff's detectives determined that someone had shot him several times. Detective John Corpening with the Sheriff's Office Cold Case team took a fresh look at Michael McIntyre's case. Investigators say they're still not sure where the murder happened.
That's a theory, but it's not conclusive at this time whether he was killed at that spot, a short distance from that spot, or somewhere else entirely and then driven there.
Sue told me she did not notice the body when she left for her lunch break, but it was there when she returned less than an hour later. Looking back, she may have missed the killer by just minutes. A minute here or a minute there, things could have changed.
Anything could have changed at that time. Like I said, it did put fear in me afterwards, thinking if I had left maybe 10 minutes later, would I have seen it?
Detective Corpening said investigators believe Michael knew the person that killed him. Cynthia remembers being concerned about her son's safety. Do you know if he was in any trouble prior to the crime?
No, but I know different folks were telling me that he was hanging out with some bad people.
Investigators have connected a car to the case. It's a 1996 light green Buick Regal, reported stolen at the time. Michael drove it before the murder happened, but detectives have never found it. They'd also like to talk with anyone who saw or talked with Michael on the day he died.
Perhaps there's another person that wasn't talked to that was with Michael hours before his death, minutes before his death, the day before his death, and we want those people to come forward and tell us where Michael was, what he was doing, who he was talking to in those times before his death, so we can firm up a timeline and hopefully generate a new lead that can be followed.
So that after 24 years, Cynthia McIntyre can have answers to her questions.
I know someone know who killed my son. And I don't know what reason you didn't come forth and tell it at this point, but I'm really sure that you know. You know.
Detective Corpening told us that in his experience, some cases are more difficult to solve than others because of a lack of witnesses or a lack of evidence. But he told me he thinks the Michael McIntyre murder case is solvable. They just need the right information, the missing piece of the puzzle to do it. Case number 4, the murder of Beverly Ennis Moore in 2009. This case is different from the others for me for this reason. I personally reported on this story just months after Beverly's death. I went to the scene along Sloop Point Road in Hampstead, a small town in coastal Pender County. I talked to the lead detective on the case, Scott Lawson, and to Beverly's husband, Darrell. Detective Lawson responded to the home after Darrell found his wife's body, sexually assaulted and strangled, lying in the bathtub of her home, Sunday afternoon, September 27th.
She was a very giving person. She gave to a lot of people. I was hoping she was alive. I thought she'd OD'd. I thought she took too many drugs or pills. She took pills, but that wasn't it.
The memory of Miss Moore lying in that bathtub, that's a memory that won't ever be erased.
Now, 16 years later, Detective Bill Crowningshield is giving the case a fresh set of eyes.
I do have several names in this investigation in which I have to look at and try to determine whether the person is involved or not involved, and I'm still in the process.
Detective Crowningshield said at least one person is still on the persons of interest list. It's Darrell Moore, even though he died back in 2020. The couple had split a few months before the murder.
I can say that he's still a person of interest in this case. To be able to determine whether he's not, I still have to go through the investigation, and I have not made that decision yet.
Another person of interest, he says, is James Gorby. Gorby is serving life in prison for killing his stepfather, Roger Mock, in another part of Hampstead a little more than 2 years after Ms. Moore's death. Detective Crowningshield has resent several pieces of evidence from the murder scene to the State Bureau of Investigation's lab in Raleigh. He's banking on advancements in DNA testing since 2009 to narrow the field of potential suspects.
And if profiles are developed for DNA purposes, of course, that makes the case a whole lot stronger. Now all I have to do is determine who belongs to that profile.
Until he gets the results, Detective Crowningshield will build on the investigation started years ago. And one thing Detective Lawson said soon after the murder still rings true today.
I can't help but believe that there is someone out there who knows something. Someone out there has heard someone talk. Someone out there has a gut feeling about something. That's the information that we might need to put this case to rest.
Ms. Moore can't speak, can't tell us who did this to her. But hopefully this investigation will. And if the investigation leads to an arrest, then that's us speaking for justice, but not just for justice, but for the family also.
Similar to the investigation into Martha Maxwell's murder, the governor's office at the time put up a reward for any information that helped to catch and convict Beverly Moore's killer. That reward is still in place 16 years later. Our fifth case, the most recent one, is the murder of Chris Bryant from August of 2019.
Well, to me, he was Superman. I'm not even gonna lie. I watched him take care of me, my mother at times, my sister, his mother, all in the same house, you know. And, you know, he had an unconditional love for me, you know.
That's Antonio Williams talking about his dad, Chris Bryant, whose life ended at the age of 49. A member of the family was cutting the grass at Chris's house one day on Bowen Blanks Drive. That's in the Riegelwood area of rural Columbus County. They noticed some broken glass near the front door. When they went inside, they found Chris dead from a gunshot wound.
They took something from me that, you know, I can't replace. Like it's you can make up so many words and so many things, but they took something from me that just took a part of me.
According to investigators, Chris Bryant did have a criminal past, mostly drug offenses. But family members tell me they believe he had turned his life around since getting out of prison nearly 2 years before he died. Whether that history played a part in his murder is still an unknown. That's according to Captain Jeremy Barber of the Columbus County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, we have to take everything into consideration, but we also do not use that to judge the victim because everybody has a past. So we think it's important to consider everything that goes on with the individual, but not hold that against them because you're dealing with a human being. He didn't ask to be killed.
Along with noticing the broken glass outside the front door, the family member also saw an air conditioning unit on the ground outside the rear of Chris Bryant's home. The window where he usually sat was wide open. That's how they believe the shooter or shooters got inside. Captain Barber told me they think a few possible scenarios could have played out. Chris could have walked in on someone robbing his house, or the killer could have gotten inside and waited for him to come home. The sheriff's office has a good bit of evidence in the Chris Bryant murder investigation, but still not enough to charge anyone.
It could be something small. It could be just a witness coming forward and saying that, hey, I saw the victim here at this time frame.
The public don't always understand that those little things are sometimes really what break a case.
That's Detective Adam Sellers, who was also with the sheriff's office, echoing what Captain Barber said.
Those little things are what tie this over here to this over here, and we haven't found that little piece yet.
There may be people who are hesitant to share what they know about the Chris Bryant murder because they fear for their own safety. Both Captain Barber and Detective Sellers told me their office accepts anonymous tips, and they welcome them if the person believes that information could help catch a killer. All 5 of these unsolved murder cases are active investigations, with the agencies willing to look into new information if they receive it. The families of Martha Maxwell, Tara Tracy, Michael McIntyre, Beverly Moore, and Chris Bryant are waiting for justice, wanting someone to be held accountable for killing their loved one. If you know anything about what happened to these 5 victims, please call 911. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this special episode of One on One.